Hey there, YouTubers. Kitten Hoarder here, and you're watching Session Report, the show that takes you to the gamer's table to share in the surprises that come out during play. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. This sort of interactive novel slash multimedia augmented reality project called the Ice-Bound Concordance just came out. And I was a Kickstarter backer for this game. I'll get into that later, but it's really not a game. It's really, if you think of it more of as a work of fiction with some interactive elements, you'll get a lot more enjoyment out of it. For instance, it's a lot less of a game than, say, an Inkle game or traditional interactive fiction. In any case, this is by Aaron A. Reed, who also did, what did he do? Blue Lacuna, which is a really good interactive, long-form interactive fiction. It's basically an interactive novel that's got a really nice simplified format. I think you can still play it for free if you go to his website. I'm not quite sure. I think he might be charging for it at this point, but I think it's still free. In any case, I'll look into that. But we're talking about Icebound right now. And hi, Jimmy. Hi, Jim Man. Oh, my Jim Butters. Oh, good boy. He loves to get up on this table, but he's usually not allowed in here because he likes to get up on the table and he likes to eat all of my game pieces. All right. But today he's okay. So, we're playing Icebound. Quote playing. And I wanted to do a little video of this because it's a really cool project, and I wanted to show a little bit how it works. This is actually going to be my first time using the physical book, the Ice-Bound Compendium. I did some playtesting for this, which I had to use essentially like workarounds. Not having the physical book, he programmed in some workarounds for playtesting. But this is the physical Ice-Bound Compendium, and you'll see how this works with the game. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm not going to be doing the entire thing. I think I'm going to be recording bits and pieces of it in an attempt to not spoil too much about the story, but show off the atmosphere and how the interactions with the app and the book work. So I'm going to start, we're going to look at the intro to the game. And then I'm probably going to skip ahead 1 or 2 chapters, because that's where things really start to get interesting. And we'll maybe do a chapter, and that'll be it for this playthrough. So, gonna wipe some of this cat hair off of my screen, and then I'm gonna begin. Jimmy sheds constantly. I don't know if you can tell. There's white cat hair everywhere now, since he's been on the table for about, I don't know, maybe 60 seconds. And it's not like we don't brush him. He gets brushed more than any other cat I know. He never gets tired of being brushed. He's just I guess he's a hairy man. Alright. Okay, let's begin the Ice-Bound Concordance. Get my volume all the way up. Now this is as far as I can tell, this is a free app, and you can play up to a certain point without buying the actual book. That's what costs the money. And then you're basically locked out of the story after a certain point unless you have the book, and it'll become clear why once we get into it. But if you want to just play like the first chapter, I recommend it. It's pretty interesting story from the get-go. All right. Greetings, you are about to embark on a unique and thrilling collaboration with an AI simulacrum. Together you will explore one of the most famous works of unfinished literature of the mid-21st century. This unique opportunity is brought to you by Tethys House, the leading publisher of news stories from historical authors. Please review the license agreement before continuing. End-user license agreement, legal agreement between you, blah blah blah, Tethys House, Tethys Global, Southam Union Branch, blah blah blah. This agreement governs all software, simulacra, and any upgrades, patches, hotfixes, etc., etc. Software simulacra. There's no separate license agreement with this agreement. Governs the use of updates, and such updates will be blah 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 blah. you agreed to comply with and are bound by blah blah blah. Then you may not download, install, activate, or otherwise use any of the software, and you must promptly return the software. Blah 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 for a full refund. If you're accepting these terms and conditions on behalf of an entity, you acknowledge that you have the appropriate authority to accept these terms and conditions on behalf of such entity. Rights over simulacra. The simulacra described above and hereafter are categorized as software for all legal, commercial, industrial, medical, actuarial, and ethical purposes. Under no conditions or circumstances may a constructed sentience claim or assert any rights, birthrights, freedoms, rights, entitlements, privileges, prerogatives, authorities, dispensations, immunities, exemptions, dispensations, or liberties, including rights to free speech, equality, freedom from discrimination, personal security, freedom from torture. The user agrees to and acknowledges the simulacrum product is not a recognized sentience, and interaction with said simulacrum cannot be categorized as protected discourse. User agrees not to reveal to the simulacrum any restricted information. You have been assigned an instance of your simulacrum partner and are ready to connect. Disclaimer: interacting with a simulacrum is fun and rewarding, but also cause confusion. While your simulacrum may exhibit lifelike behavior, it is not a conscious entity and is not alive. Your simulacrum does not possess any rights or legal claims to personhood. Please report malfunctioning simulacra to our technical support staff immediately. You can sort of see where this is going. Addendum: we have received reports about an unauthorized print book called the Ice-Bound Compendium. This book is not authorized by Tethys House and contains information restricted from constructed sentiences. If you encounter a copy of this book, please destroy it immediately, and under no circumstances allow your simulacrum to access it. Sharing restricted information with a constructed sentience is a crime, and Tethys can take no responsibility for any damage to your simulacra that may result. Alright, let's see the intro. Hey there, YouTubers. Kitten Hoarder here, and I've just finished what's essentially Chapter 1 of the Ice-Bound Concordance, and I've gotten to the first augmented reality portion of the game. So, I'm going to demonstrate that for you now. So, as you can see, the app has taken control of my camera, and it's recording whatever I'm looking at here. And it says it's looking for themes of duplicates in authenticity and also the fallibility of memory. So I have been working with this AI, Chris, to produce this novel called Ice-Bound, and I've just finished the first chapter. And he says, based on the choices that I made with him, he's seeing these themes. And so he wants me to go through this Ice-Bound Compendium to try to find some evidence that those themes are appropriate. Now, the Ice-Bound Compendium is, I think you saw that at the intro of the game, it's not supported by Tethys House, the publisher. And in fact, they directly prohibit showing this to the AI. So I'm actually breaking some copyright laws and probably some international laws by showing this to the AI. So this is a big decision. But I want this book to be the best thing that it can be, just like he does. So, okay. Prohibited material which may be damaging to artificial entities is forbidden from digitization as per UN Resolution 2713 and the Information Segregation Act, which carries severe criminal penalties with copyright infringement regarding prohibited material, blah, 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 blah. Just to make things clear, this is what Chris, the AI, is seeing. This is what I am seeing. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's see if we can find something. I'm going to put this down here again. See if we can find something that matches these themes that were being described here in the chapter. So, something about duplicates and authenticity. We're going to clear that. Duplicates and authenticity and the fallibility of memory. Some sort of art installation, and involves, as you can see, all sorts of tapes and recording devices. So that definitely has something to do with memory. We also have... Oh! I think Chris has found something here. Some sort of a water bottle. I'm still looking. Alright, so duplicates and authenticity, fallibility of memory, Karina Station. Whoa! I saw something again. What is going on here? Somebody doesn't like this picture. Definitely the fallibility of memory was on that first page I was looking at. So let's try and show that one to Chris and see what he thinks about it. No! Hey there, YouTubers. Kitten Hoarder here, and I just wanted to apologize for that. So let me explain what happened. So I was messing around with trying to, look at the book and manipulate the iPad and get a good, let me turn this down a little bit, and get a good angle, and I accidentally wasn't quite paying attention to what I was doing, and I accidentally hit confirm when I did not want to hit confirm. Now that was not my true choice, and as everybody knows, when you're dealing with a game like this, in which there's no real win or lose, it's all about just the choices you make and how they affect the story. When you make a choice that is not the choice you wanted to make, that could be really disheartening, or at least for me it is. So I tried to exit out of the app, didn't really work for me, and in fact when I reloaded the app I found that if I tried to progress beyond the point where I was, so that I could hit this up arrow, which actually brings you back to a previous chapter so you can redo it, which is what I should have done if I had been more calm about it. When I tried to reload the app and start from where I was so I could get to that up arrow, I found that I was in a loop of a conversation bubble that had popped up. If I tried to progress beyond that conversation bubble, the app would basically crash and send me back to the title screen. And that was happening over and over again. I couldn't find any way around it, so I was very frustrated, so I deleted the app and I contacted the designer to let him know about the bug. This has actually happened several times to me already with this, I guess, final release of the app, or retail release of the app. Never happened when I was using the app earlier. Anyway, long story short, I've just, I've just played back up to the point where I was, and we can now try this again. So, we are going to... This ending has themes of duplicates and authenticity and the fallibility of memory. That is correct. So, let's take a look at the book. All right. Yes, please access my camera. so restricted material warning. Trying to figure out how to do this. Okay, there we go. This will work. This? There we go. See what Chris thinks. Chris is the AI here. No matching themes there. Chris, you are blind, apparently. Alright. Let's see what else we can find then. So there's a lot of story in here, other than what is actually in the app, that you can only get access to from reading the book. Let's try this though. Let's try this page. See if Chris gets the point here. This one. Very, very nice double page art here. Huh. I don't know if you can see this, but they've actually mirrored the images here on the app screen. That is definitely some duplicate authenticity stuff. Let's take a look at it. Oh, fine. He doesn't like my ending? Let's try another page then. Well, here is definitely the fallibility of memory here. Oh, come on now. Here's a brain. Huh. What does this actually say? We'll give it a shot, I guess. Nightmares, terror words, hard to read, hard to parse, some stream of consciousness rambling. Mine? Must be. Because I remember the thing about the spider, my earliest memory maybe. I was in a crib, I've never been more afraid of anything. It's years before my next clear memory. Yes, this is clearly what I intended. Couldn't have helped but absorb some of the other material from that page too, which is also important to Ice-Bound. You know, horror is a big thing for me. I think I'm going to go for that. Futility is also pretty good. Let's try horror. So let's see what's on the next chapter here. What should this one be about? We got duplicates and authenticity, the fallibility of memory, or horror. Let's see, duplicates and authenticity, fallibility of memory, those were important themes in the frame story. But you know what? I don't know, maybe we'll go with horror. This story should involve fatal flaws. I don't know about that, but it's your book. We're at the end of the next chapter. We're about to find another symbol for Chris to look at to reassure him that the themes that I've brought up so far are correct. But before we do that, what I want to do is take a look at the compendium without the camera on. And just flip through it. Now, I've been trying not to focus too long on the actual content of the compendium because this is something that you really ought to discover for yourself. I was going through the compendium earlier today, and I noticed it's actually really, I hate to say this, but it's really poorly put together. Not the content, but the manufacture of this book is, I would say, sort of subpar, especially for something that is such a beautiful, beautifully laid out, full color art book. As I flip through the pages, you probably can't hear it, but I can hear I think it's called the binder glue coming undone here. And actually, if you take a look here, this book is essentially entirely separated from the spine there, and then here it's attached, I think, in a place where it should not be, right? There should be more of this page showing here. So it's sort of disappointing for, like I said, such a beautiful book. And I want to make it clear that I still think that this is a fantastic game, and I am a supporter of this game, and I just want to, the only reason that I'm sort of bringing up these issues that I'm having trouble, or that I'm encountering, is because obviously I don't want to be misleading. I want to share the whole truth about this with you, and there is good and bad. I think that the writing and just the sheer concept of this outweighs the bad, but there are some issues both with the book itself and the app itself. Okay, so we are looking for the lure of exploration, as well as fatal flaws. Here we've got something that definitely speaks to the lure of exploration to me, right? We've got sort of star navigation, astral navigation, whatever they call it. There's a ship there, the Argo, right, from the Jason and the Argonauts. Song of Crowns, of course. George, the Simulacrum George, the thrilling sequel series continues. George being of course, the well-known author of that Song of Crowns series that everyone loves so much. Well, there's some fatal flaws right there. We got some smoking, we got some scotch. It looks like there's scotch, beer, and possibly whiskey in there. Because what writer doesn't have those things? I think I want to focus on this is a really cool page here. I think I want to focus on the lure of exploration, though. So I'm going to show him this page right here, and we'll see what he thinks. Okay, so one thing that let me turn the brightness up just to make sure you can see this, because I know there's a lot of ambient light here. One thing that I did want to show you is there's this, there's this sort of how to use it book, or how to use it page, and we've got a sample pattern. So this will show you, this is probably the first thing that you would do when you open up your book, and it shows you, excellent. This actually could be used, I guess, for the lure of exploration. It looks like a sort of a Mandelbrot pattern there, a fractal snowflake. But let's clear that for now. We're going to try and find that other page. And here we go. Let's get this in frame here. Yes. Let's get this maybe vertical. There we go. Oh, they really don't want to scan this page. Huh. Maybe if I get both at once. There we go. Alright, so you can see there's a sort of overlay here. I'm not going to go too far into that, but let's see what the page actually says. This is Carina, the keel. Once part of the Greek constellation Argo Navis, the ship which searched for the Golden Fleece, brightest star is Canopus, etc., etc. 1988 outburst made it the brightest star in the sky. This is wrong. Carina, Latin keel of ship, or nutshell. Derivatives include careen, to heave a ship down on one side to expose the other. Now sway side to side. Possible connection to Russian Tsarina, the Empress. So the Carina, remember, Carina Station is the name of the station in the book here, the sort of Arctic station that we're exploring level by level. We're going to confirm this. I can't remember now when the name Carina Station first came to me. Before almost anything, though, before any of the characters, before any writing, just that image, the station sinking into the ice, and what it was called. All these notes were after the fact, trying to find some justification, but the name came first. Curious, a single red word underlined. What could that signify? Oh, did you notice the other strange thing about the text? Oh, the last few sentences of the constellation's description? Now that is odd. Well, let's take a look at that. Homunculus Nebula. Theta Carinae, the brightest star in the open cluster IC 2602, separated from his wife in 2020 to pursue a career opportunity that might never come again, leaving their daughter behind around 140 parsecs from, etc. Not sure what that means. Two text files getting mixed up, transmission glitch? Or maybe I can't trust anything in this book. But anyway, your impulse is correct. Clearly the story has to end that way. And I get how the theme of the lure of exploration was right for your ending. Can't tell you how much your help means to me. Thank you. You're welcome. I noticed some additional material on that compendium page. I'm curious which one of these other themes connects strongly to Icebound. You got authority, journeys over destinations, or cruelty. So I could make this decision in a number of ways, right? I could look at the page again and take a look at what I think is most jumping out at me from here. I could think about what has already happened in the story and use that as the basis for my decision, or the choices I've already made, or I could just go for what I think would make the most interesting story from here on forward. Now, I think all three of these would actually make a really good, I guess, continuation of the story I've already been writing, together with Chris. So let's go with let's see, I think I'm stuck between authority and cruelty. I think authority, because we already actually had a lot of rebelliousness, so I think authority would be a good counterpoint to that. So we'll go with authority. Undoubtedly, yes. I think we can resolve this chapter now. Alright, so he's frozen this level of the story. We're going to delve deeper. Next level down, next story. What do you think it should be about? Again, the list of themes prioritized up to this point. We've got duplicates and authenticity, fallibility of memory, horror, the lure of exploration, ambition, and authority. Let's go for ambition this time. Thank you. So interesting and fairly obvious in hindsight. Thank you. How about this? For the next story, we'll also explore themes of horror. I like it. Ambition and horror. Let's descend. So the general structure of this book, right, is you're going deeper and deeper into deeper layers of this station, which are actually stories farther and farther in the past. I'm going to play through layer 3, and that's going to be really the end of my playthrough video. I'll leave you to discover the rest yourself. But this is my favorite of the chapters that I played through while playtesting the game, so I thought this would be a good one. I've got an Italo Calvino quote: "The billions of combinations multiply, but perhaps a structure starts to appear." Farther down, further back, the 1940s, a soldier alone at the end of the war. My winking riff on a war story. At least it started out that way. As you'll see, Ethan may not be quite so alone as he thinks. So, let me explain to you how this app works. Okay, so the general structure of this app is you got these chapters that you're going to go through, and the actual content of the chapters, only one element of it is decided, right? Ethan being alone. This is sort of pre-decided. This is this little, what they call a socket, and it's illuminated, right? I have these other lights that I can drag around to illuminate different sockets, and each socket I illuminate adds a different element to the story. So I can basically play around with the lights, decide which lights I want illuminated in which combination, and that's going to create, based on combinations of lights, those are the symbols, and that's going to create different events and different endings for the story. If I want to see more detail, I will go into the full studio, and I will see the actual full description of this text here. His orders. Ethan never understood why they sent him here alone. None of the pieces fit. Why him? Why alone? Why here, for heaven's sake? They said if the war didn't start looking up, you'd soon hear German all around the world, but surely they couldn't mean here, at this ice-blasted station 3,000 clicks from a hot bath. What did they hope to hear with all this radio equipment they left him? And why did he have to be alone? And here's a footnote we can read. A lot of this material, the solitude especially, comes from my days in Minnesota. You've read all about that in the compendium, no doubt. Not among my finest moments. I don't want to spoil too much about his personal life, so I'm going to read through this by myself. We're going to get back to the story in a second. So we're back in the station here, and we can illuminate these different... This is a sort of a map of the station, but it's also a map of the story. So we can illuminate these different sockets, see what we can find. Far end, a brother. Wow, I don't remember writing this thing about the twin brother at all. I'm not really comfortable with... This is too close to home. Take it out, please. This shouldn't be part of the story. This seems like a really good reason to leave it in. So we've got the twin brother. That's a symbol for fraternal. Let's see what happens if we illuminate down here. Staging room. The story would really make a whole lot more sense without this stupid brother subplot. So you can see that it's not just your choices shaping this story, but also Chris has some... I guess you could say personal stake in it. So if we illuminate those, the stack of shipping crates represents futility. We got some events now. Ethan fears he'll leave his mission unfinished. He breaks down and begs to come home. But there's no ending to the story, so we need a different combination of symbols for that. So let's see. Paranoia. Ethan fears he'll leave his mission unfinished, so we've got more events now. The gloves worn raw represents paranoia, but there's still no ending. Let's try illuminating one more. The signal. A curious signal. Now we've got an ending. He hears his dead twin's voice on the radio. Ethan dies destroying the threat, or Ethan finally puts Paul to rest, or he never deciphers the signal. And we've got some other things we can discuss with him, with Chris here. I'm going to do that on my own time. Again, I don't want to spoil too much about the sort of personal life here. I just want to show you how the story works. So I like this curious signal, right? And the way that I like to do this, you can do this however you want, obviously. You can read the full text of everything, every possibility that comes up, right? But the way that I like to do this is I'm going to make my decisions first. Then I'm going to read the text. And as long as I am happy with that, I'm going to stick with it. So this crate's representing dedication, I believe. No, futility. Let's see if we can move that around, because I really like this mysterious signal and the paranoia. We've got a blank notebook, which represents determination to chronicle. What else do we have here? A ghost. So he's haunted. That's probably that horror element, right? Because some of these symbols show up based on the choices that you've made. Some of them are always going to be there. Some of them are particular to certain characters. Some of them are not. All right, his uniform, patriotism, right? So I think I'm going to go with, let's try the ghost. Nice. Okay, I really like this way the story is shaping up. So let's see how it looks like in full. So there's going to be a lot of text here, actually. So flip this over. We've got this first paragraph. This remains the same. Then we have his twin brother. He wore a small pendant with a picture of his twin brother, Paul, who died when they were both 10. He needed no reminder for the event itself, that puncture of darkness and absence even his parents couldn't understand. Worse than losing a piece of himself, it felt like his very soul had been torn away. In recurring dreams, I'm going to freeze that there. In recurring dreams, he met with a huge indifferent god and begged to become Paul, to let Ethan fade away. He'd start awake and have trouble for a moment, remembering which brother he was. Now the dreams came much less often, but they'd never stopped altogether. He thought of Paul more and more as the empty winter dragged on, as if the ice was feeding them both, rebuilding them piece by piece, or consuming them both, eroding them piece by piece. So these are choices I can make. Now these choices, at least according to the app, according to Chris, don't actually affect the outcome of the story, but they affect the details, right? So these are things actually more for you as a player, just to sort of, I guess, color the subtleties of the story. But according to Chris, this doesn't actually affect the final outcome of the chapter or the themes that get highlighted. This is just, what do you think would make the better story? And I think this is a really interesting decision, right? This is not actually, and this is not interactive in the traditional sense, right? This is you making a direct change to the story that only has repercussions in this paragraph in which it appears. But in terms of the story that you create in your head, it does have lasting repercussions, right? If you can remember it, of course. As the weeks stumbled on, Ethan developed a ridiculous case of paranoia. So here we have Ethan, right? It could be any character, right? This paranoia could belong to any of the characters. But because it's Ethan, we've got certain details, right? German voices, because it's happening to Ethan. The doors having no locks, that's because it's after 1800, right? When doors with locks installed became a thing. All right. I think an acute case of paranoia here. Doors had no locks, but he began pushing furniture in front of them, especially the base's main entrance. He thought he heard noises at night, sometimes footsteps in the frozen hallways, sometimes muffled voices from deep in the ice below. German voices? Because this is World War II, remember? He rolled over and clasped a pillow over his ears, hummed lullabies to himself. There was someone or no one there? Let's go with no one. There was no one there. There was no one there. All right, transmission began without any warning. It was faint but clear. Nonsense words in an unfamiliar language, clearly enunciated. Let's go with that. Obviously some sort of message. He reported it at once through the mainland radio relay. The response from his commanders was terse but clear. Continue monitoring. So he did. His blood was still cold, but positively racing now. Something was happening. Maybe he could stick it to the Jerrys after all. So clearly this was written specifically for Ethan. A ghost. Once he thought a blurred figure moved at the end of the hall. Paul, he said stupidly into the dark. No one answered, but his paranoia grew more justified. Ethan wasn't one to believe in ghosts, but after that shapes always seemed to lurk at the edges of his vision, muttering icy whispers. And unseen gazes burned the back of his head. This connects to our theme of horror. Let's keep this burst of unexplained emotion. Ethan, yeah, he wasn't one to believe in ghosts, was he? So what is this? Bursts of unexplained emotion watched him through the long hours of night. No. Bursts of unexplained emotion would break across him at all hours. So the sense of uncertainty grows day by day. Ethan almost couldn't bear it. Something was wrong here. The place was thick with mystery, but the kind that should be buried forever, not exhumed, solved. Surely he should tell someone, speak to some sort of authority about the growing sense of dread, but what would he say? No, he was on his own. As time went on, it became a sort of game, a small act of rebellion, pretending that everything was normal, when with every breath Karina whispered of deepness and doom. He hears his dead twin's voice on the radio. He woke from a deep sleep when the radio began to squeal and spit, gibbering with static-drenched voices. The signal slipped in and out as he twisted knobs, as if dancing away from the numb fingers trying to pin it down. The voices were one voice, he realized, overlapping and echoing. A foolish thought struck him. The voice was his dead twin's, but as the not-quite words skittered through mad distortions, he couldn't shake the notion, and in fact became only more and more convinced. The voice rambled on for 40 incoherent minutes, spinning through frequencies, never quite understandable, but certainly, absolutely, it was Paul. Not till he'd almost drifted back to sleep, deep in the blackened night, did he begin to wonder if it had been his own voice, after all. The signal was coming from somewhere close by. The radio started to growl whenever he'd seen the ghost, because the because there's a ghost in the story, right? If there weren't a ghost in the story, this text would be different here. Ripped through static wails as if the polar air was haunted in frequencies, his machines crying out even when his eyes could see nothing. He tried with desperation to untangle the patterns. But no matter what technique he tried, the answer was always the same and nonsense. The distortion was coming from above him, high in the stratosphere. Are you sure? I think the signal was coming from beneath him, in the ice under his feet. The readings had to be false. He would keep trying. The ghost is Paul. It came again, standing at the foot of his bed as he opened his eyes against a howling storm. It was Paul, of course, the way he'd look now as if he'd lived, a cold mirror made of shadows, light skirting his edges. No, he's waking, he's opening his eyes from dreams of things half forgotten. And Paul is made of... he's made of dust, shifting and spilling like a living hourglass. "You shouldn't be here," was all Ethan could say, staring at his dead twin. Paul sat on the bed's edge, staring at him. With a kind smile. Let's go with that. There's a lot of options here. No weight displaced the wool blanket, but the fibers quivered upright, reached out with electric excitement. So I have many possible endings. Ethan dies destroying the threat. Ethan becomes the ghost. Ethan finally puts Paul to rest. I'm going to go with Ethan becomes the ghost. It had happened slowly over creeping weeks. Or perhaps it had always been happening somewhere in the back of his head, in every choice he made, in every so-called coincidence that had led him to Carina Station. He looked at himself in the mirror and thought he should feel something like terror, panic. There was only an overwhelming sense of inevitability, I'm going to go with. He had discovered his true form, his ultimate purpose. The ghost had been him all along. Everything he had thought a flaw was merely an uncut gemstone, perfection. And besides, his eyes were exactly the same. There was much work to do. It was time to return below. So we're going to stop there. You've already seen me consult the compendium several times, so you know what that's going to be like. We're going to find something that confirms the ending. He's going to maybe pull a couple other themes out of that page. We're going to get a little bit more insight into Chris's existence, and we're going to move on to the next chapter of the book, but I'll let that remain a surprise for you. In case you couldn't tell, I definitely recommend Ice-Bound. It is something that has some implementation errors, a few what you might call fatal flaws, as we've seen in the themes of the book. But I think it's, this is really breaking new ground here. This is really interesting, melding of physical, the digital and the physical, the interactive and the, narrative. Right, this is not like a standard interactive fiction where you make choices and you explore the world almost as if you're playing an RPG, right? You're actually making choices to write a story, you're not taking the role of the characters in the story. You are acting as author of the story or co-author. So yes, recommend it. Download the app. You can play through the first chapter without ordering the book, but now you know what happens if you do order the book, right? Some of the new details you can get to, and how the story, little taste of how the story develops. It goes on from here, obviously, but for now, I'm just going to say it. You know what I'm going to say. That's all she wrote.